Sorry, just got out of the shower. So for this video, somehow Aman has managed to convince some good people to send them some free stuff. And now you might be wondering, will Aman keep it straight? You damn right he will, because I'm here. That's my job. I, Hank, will make sure that we get a proper review with me asking the hard-hitting questions. Of course, if you want to support the show, we will have affiliate links down below. But that's about it. All right, enjoy the show. So as mentioned by Hank, BigBig Won did send me over the Blitz 2 TMR controller to review on this channel. Now I've never tried any of their controllers, but when they reached out and they told me that this controller has a registered 2000 Hz polling rate, I wanted to check it out for myself. Now for those that don't know, polling rate is the amount of times a signal is sent to the PC or to the computer or to your console in regards to your input from either a controller or the mouse. So the higher the polling rate, the more accurate, the more information is being sent over, so the lower the latency. This is of course quite important when it comes to any competitive game, and of course, as you can imagine, in fighting games. But I've also done a bunch of research, and a lot of times people do say that any controller or anything like that, any device like that, that has a polling rate over 500 Hz, you typically can't really tell. I'll definitely use the software to confirm that it is 2000 Hz or around there for this controller, but it should be noted that a lot of pro players, competitors do look at devices that have high polling rate, because for them, every little detail, every little second makes a difference. Look, I'm excited, enough talk, let's open this up. All right, so here we have the Blitz 2 TMR 2000 Hz wireless and wired polling rate. This controller looks pretty cool. Let's open this up. All right, we have the little open latch over here. There you go. Got a couple of goodies here. We've got the support center QR code. We've got, of course, the product manual. Great to have. Here we have their near link dongle. I typically connect my controllers using a dongle to make sure I get the lowest latency possible. This will most likely be the wire. There you go. We have the USB to USB-C wire to connect and of course charge the controller. Got some hidden goodies inside that. What are these? I am honestly not too sure. They might be for the grips or the buttons themselves, like replacement buttons. So we'll keep these in hand. At the bottom here, you can see we have a D-pad, another D-pad that we can use, the Xbox 360 style one. That's pretty good. Whoops, drop that. We also have these analog sticks. So it should be, yep, we can see here, it's different sizes. You can kind of play around depending on what you want. Like I mentioned in my other video, these are pretty useful, especially if you want to have really precise aim. You can put a higher or bigger length analog stick on your right analog stick to kind of get a little bit more precise when it comes to your aiming. I've used quite a few of those Control Freak extenders on my analog sticks. That would help. Although as you can tell, I'm still pretty bad. And of course, now let's check out the controller itself. Drop this and okay, wow. Ooh, okay. Okay, first thing I'm noticing is this rubber grip. This is a very nice grippy. Ooh, look at, oh, this is, woo! Woo! Okay. These are all mechanical buttons. Oh my God, are you, I'm gonna bring this closer to the mic. That's the D-pad. You hear that? These are the face buttons. Okay, wow. I was not expecting this. Is this the perfect control design just for me? Okay. All right, so the regular button, these buttons here, like the start and whatever, they feel a bit more normal, although they might be mechanical. But these are all mechanical. They feel so good. Yeah, these are also regular buttons. This one too. Okay, these are the clicks. Let's go look at the back. The other thing I noticed alongside the rubberized grips was the back buttons, because you might be able to tell. I'm gonna like kind of show it to you this way. The button press is very light, And because it has that clicky, the mechanical button clickiness, it's easy to press and you get a really good feedback pretty quickly. I don't know if I would say it's better than the DualSense. I still really like the DualSense Edge ones, but they might be better than the 8-bit Duo ones. Wow. I won't lie, this was not how I expected this to go. This caught me by surprise. Okay, so this is also buttoned over here. This is their logo. All right, let me just show you this controller once again in all its glory. This is really cool. They of course have the 2000 hertz written over here. Obviously we'll make sure to test that because they really label this controller to make sure everyone knows that the polling rate is 2000 hertz. And as per the box, or what this control is called, TMR, of course they have the TMR joystick, so hopefully you would not get any stick drift issues with these ones. As you can see, there's top 2 buttons over here too. I believe this is what you use to connect it to the Switch or use Bluetooth, stuff like that. The only thing I'm noticing is the triggers. They of course don't have any levels or anything like that. So this is the only kind of trigger that you get, or the level you get. There's no distance that it really travels. It's just a click, as you can kind of see. So for racing games, I'm not too sure. I don't think this will perform too well. Fighting games and FPS stuff like that, sure. I think this will be fine. Casual racing games, yeah, this can work there. But yeah, like, because you can just see it's just a click. It's basically kind of what you would see on the Nintendo Switch Pro controllers, just the buttons. They feel good because they are these mechanical clicky buttons, which I really like. For some, the noise, the sound might get a little much. So if you don't have headphones on, if you have someone sitting next to you, it could get a lot with the button clicks and everything. But I'm really liking this. So okay, so enough talk. Why don't we actually start testing this out? Let's jump into a FPS game that I've been playing quite a bit recently. Alright, so here we are with Overwatch, the new branded Overwatch. This is a game that I've been playing for quite a while, and of course with the new branded version of it, I want to kind of jump back in and test out the Blitz 2 TMR. Why don't we just jump into a quick play game? I will probably just do damage. That's been my go-to. Already just kind of navigating the menu. I'm really liking the clicky sound. I have turned down the speakers, and obviously I don't have any headphones on, so when it's set up that way, it does feel clicky. Like, you can hear the clicky sounds quite a bit. So if you're in a similar environment, in a sense, you might hear the clicky sounds quite a bit. But at the same time, if you're used to having a mechanical keyboard like a lot of PC gamers are used to, it's kind of the same thing. It's not that bad. All right, let's move around. Okay, this feels good. Sorry if this is causing anyone any motion sickness on your side. Just moving everything around. Okay, it feels really good. As you've seen with my other games that I've tested out, I'm not very good. So please be kind. Okay, it feels good so far. I'm really liking this. Like, the joysticks are pretty well set. Like, it's not too sensitive. It just kind of feels perfect. Of course, these are things that you can kind of change in the game as well. I'm just going with the default settings for now. I do wonder if you can hear the clicky sounds. Oh, getting hairy here. I need some heal. Oh, okay. Like I said, it's feeling really good. I'm really liking this. I'm also gonna liking going back into Overwatch. This feels really good. I normally play Torbjorn, but I have kind of switched to Pharaoh a little while back. Only thing I'm noticing right now is it is kind of warm right now in my condo because it's pretty cold outside, so we have the heater up. My palms are getting a little sweaty, and it is kind of making the joysticks a little sticky. Could be a me problem, but just want to be upfront. Just kind of what I'm noticing. It's not too bad, but I guess, you know, since it is that rubberized kind of fabric or whatever that's on the sides and on the joysticks, almost reminds me of like those PS2 joysticks to a degree. And after a while, they would kind of weirdly get like oily or something. Maybe, okay, maybe it might be by control. Maybe I have an issue. Oh my god. So far, I'm definitely liking this. Ooh, Doomfist. Oh my god, he got me. This is like one of the first proper kind of PvP competitive game that I really got into when it first came out 10 years ago. Before that, I would kind of really avoid PvP games. I might play Call of Duty and stuff. I remember I tried out Battlefield as well, but this was like the first one where I was like, me and my friends were just playing all the time. And I'm also really liking the triggers, like the clickiness of the triggers, because it is basically just those clicks that we typically see in a lot of those pro controls that we've been trying out, where they give you a little bit of a range. In this case, like I mentioned earlier, there's no range. It's just those clicks. That's it. It's like plain and simple. You get the click or you don't get the click by not pressing it. So that's just kind of how it is, which from a competitive standpoint isn't bad. And especially for a game like this, you don't really need that range. That's what's going to be interesting when we do switch into F1, which is of course a racing game that I do like to test out with the controllers. I already know it's not going to go as I would have wanted it to, but we will keep our testing methodology the same for each control that we test out on this channel. Oh, come on. That was pretty fun. I mean, like I said, like this feels really good. I haven't really assigned anything to the macros, so of course, you know, because of that, I won't be able to kind of test out what those macros can do in a game like this. We'll check out the software at the end, but just from a default experience, it's been really good. It's been pretty fun. I'm liking how this feels. Like I mentioned, when you're sweating, it does feel a little off because you do have the rubberized grips and everything. But with that said, why don't we switch over to our fighting game? All right, so here we are with Street Fighter 6. Why don't we jump into a training match, and we'll of course go with Terry. I am quite excited to check out this D-pad, like just kind of moving along the UI, stuff like that. It feels really good. The clickiness of the buttons also, I feel like, will go a long way. Like it doesn't really make, like, at least from my perspective, it's not gonna make a huge difference overall. It's just that feedback that plays into your ability to play games sometimes. Okay, wow, this feels really good. I don't know if you can hear this. This feels really good. Okay. I'm also trying to see, because it is rated at 2000 hertz polling rate, trying to see if I can kind of notice that kind of difference. Like I said, I feel like we'll use the software that I have to actually get the polling rate amount so we can confirm that it is at 2000 hertz. But it is hard to kind of notice, you know, just from a casual perspective. There you go. All right. I mean, this feels good. Already able to do the move that I wanted to test out, which is great. Yeah, I mean, I'm really liking this just because it's just a clickiness. When I press on it, I get that feedback that it's been pressed. So not only the sound, the click itself, but the way it goes down. Like it is kind of like a mechanical keyboard where when you click on something, you do feel that press, right? That actuation. So when you do it, you know, okay, I'm gonna move on to the next one. It's not to say that you don't feel this or you might not feel this with other controls. For this, that feedback is very apparent. Like you get that feedback. Like this movement is, I'm getting the feedback, you know? So I can then press Y to do the kick right after. And see, anytime that I didn't land it, I could tell by the sound. That's really cool. Like I can tell it's a different sound because I missed a beat or I missed a button press or like just the rhythm wasn't correct. Like I said, these things I can imagine can make a big difference for a lot of pro players. Every small bit counts. And from a casual perspective, it might just give you a little bit of leg up, or it might just prepare you for the pro side if you ever want to go there. For me, it's just a clicky sound. The clickiness itself just feels so good that I can just kind of keep, playing it. Like it's just it's a very addictive. It's almost like the bubble wrap that you get when you open a package and then you're just kind of playing with the bubble wrap. And that's kind of how it feels with these buttons, it feels really, really good. I'm just gonna bring up my Ultimate 2C here, and you can kind of hear. So that's the Ultimate 2C, right? I'm gonna do the same thing now with this. It feels like those clicks, like in my video for PDP Victrix Pro BFG, when we switched out the module to put the fight pad in, those clicky sounds that you get there is what you're getting on just the controller as a whole, which is really cool. I'm trying to use a joystick here to just kind of see how that feels. The joystick as well, I mean, I'm not a big fan of joysticks when it comes to getting the right input in. As you can tell, I don't get it every time, which is why I prefer either a leverless or something like a D-pad. But it does the job, and overall, this is a great controller for fighting games. I'm trying to think if this can. Honestly, I do feel that it does overtake my Ultimate 2C in terms of from a fighting game perspective. We'll talk about the price because this is of course more expensive than the Ultimate 2C. Maybe even better than the PDP. Okay, yeah, this is we'll keep testing, we'll keep playing because this is good. Like I'm trying to think of any other negatives or anything that might stick out, and like there's honestly nothing when it comes to this D-pad. This D-pad is really, really good. And I haven't even switched the D-pad out for the Xbox style one, mainly because I don't want to. I like this one. As you all know, this is my preferred style of D-pad. It gives me more control. But this is perfect. You get this out of the box. This says pass the fighting game test. Why don't we go into F125? We already know how this will go, but we will test it out either way. See you there. I will make sure to highlight the acceleration and the brakes, but okay, so you can already see how this is gonna go. Okay, all right, so as you can see from the button presses, I'm either fully sending, or I'm not pressing on the accelerate at all. Same thing with the brake, either I'm fully braking or I'm not braking at all. Now, of course, I have this on automatic. So from that standpoint, and this kind of being more of a simcade of sorts, as you can see, it's not bad, like I'm not having to kind of control everything per se. Of course, if you want that control, you're not gonna get it. So if you're thinking about going into something a little bit more simmy, this just won't give you that full control. Like I said, look, you can see overall, it's not like a bad experience because you are able to just accelerate, and it's on automatic. This is meant to be a little bit more of an arcadey game, but it is, yeah, this is exactly how I expected this to go. As you can see, it's not bad. It's not a bad experience because at the end of the day, if you're just full sending and braking, and there's not a lot of parameters set in this, where when you would do that in a game like iRacing or Assetto Corsa, you will kind of slide off if you just full send, especially when you're turning. But in this, as you can tell, I'm turning right now, and I kind of went off a little bit because I turned a little bit too much, but overall you're fine. I'm trying to see if I can, no, see, okay. All right, I was holding on to the accelerator and I was turning at the same time, but yeah, I didn't really slide or anything like that. I mean, just to fully test this out, we'll fully brake all the way down. So as you can see, I'm braking, All right, we're neutral. So I'm gonna accelerate, okay? I'm gonna press this very lightly. And we're full setting. Okay. All right, okay. So yeah. So there you go. That's a test with this controller on a racing game. Arcade racers and all, like you Need for Speed, maybe even this to a degree, yeah. This will do its job. Like I said, it's not something that I would use if I'm playing something a little bit more simulation focused. I honestly probably would not use this myself on F1 just because I like that control. And I also like having it set to manual, so I just get a bit more control. And the idea is that if you are able to master it that way, you can be a lot faster than anyone else that's on automatic, things like that. That's kind of why people do it. But that's just me. Like I said, each their own. Still an interesting controller. It can still do its thing on arcade racers. Alright, so why don't we finish this off by trying out a single player game to see just the immersion of this controller. Alright, so here we are with Nioh 3. I really want to test this controller out on this game. A game that does require you to be quite vigilant on top of your stuff. You gotta be ready to kind of press the right button, whatever it is. At the same time, I want to see how the vibrations kind of feel. Just the start of the game, there was a little bit of vibration that came to the controller and it did feel pretty good. You know, right now when I pressed A, so I am at the start of the game, so you will see kind of early story type stuff. Okay, it feels good. I'm still really liking just the clickiness. The clickiness, it just feels so good. Okay, I really like this game as well. So I think a little bit of both is happening here. But I like that in this game as well, everything just feels so responsive. And anyone that plays a game like this, you know how important it is to have something that is responsive. Oof, okay. Gotta heal, gotta heal. Well, completely missed that. There you go. Nice, okay. Like I said, it feels really good. The vibrations and everything are good. They are, at least in this game, feeling a little bit better than what I would expect in an Xbox controller, which is interesting. Because my understanding is that it'll be the same kind of motors and everything. It won't be necessarily something like the haptic feedbacks. Again, it's not haptic feedback that way, but the vibrations are, at least to a degree, a little interesting. All right, we're jumping right into a boss fight. Great. Okay, this was expected. Okay, so yeah, like overall, it does feel really good. I do really like how this controller plays for a single player game. Like I said, I was kind of looking for the vibrations and of course just the responsiveness of the game itself. And in a game like Nioh, it performed fantastic. So now that we've tested this out in a single player game and it was quite good, a really good experience, why don't we jump into the software? Alright, so here we have the software. I'm not able to make it take up the full screen for whatever reason, but we have the Blitz 2. I will click on connect device. Okay, there you go. So it has connected. Alright, I can't really do anything with the controller just yet. So let's check out configuration. Okay, so the way, alright, I guess I'm just gonna press on this. Okay, so we have I'm assuming that's the motion sense. It doesn't really clearly say what that is, but I guess, okay, you can simulate the left stick or the right stick depending on what you want to do. So the gyroscope sensitivity, it's really slow. Like, I don't know if you notice it, just me scrolling and everything like that. It's kind of laggy. It's really weird. Okay, so that's for the motion sense or the gyroscope itself. Again, like, I don't know why. It's like, I don't even know what this says, but we'll click on stick next. So this is the left stick. Can I test it out? Okay, I'm pressing on this. Doesn't really do much. It obviously allows you kind of mess with the dead zones. Okay. Okay, let's try the right stick. Yeah, same thing here. Doesn't really... I don't even know what this means because you can't even see what this says here. So I don't even know what I'm clicking on. Let me try to see if I can make it larger. No, yeah, there's nothing. Alright, okay. We have key maps. So, okay, so these are all where the buttons are mapped to. This will obviously be useful. Let me see if we have the M3. Alright, so the M3, which is at the top here. And then we've got the M1 and M2, which is the back paddles. Okay, cool. So we can... Can I make that into the bumper when you click in? I'm assuming that's the L3. Right? And then this one to R3. Which basically should mean that if I click on the back paddles, it will essentially emulate the analog sticks being clicked. It has a turbo function, which you can turn on and or off. So from my understanding with the turbo function, if you assign the turbo function to any button, when you hold on to it, it will basically emulate as if you're pressing that button again and again and again and again. So it's kind of like the rapid fire thing that was a little popular for a little bit in Counter-Strike, which I believe has been banned now in keyboards. I think it's kind of like a similar idea. I've never really used it. I don't really see the need exactly. I'm gonna save this. Okay, so this is obviously the configuration list. We can share, we can delete, rename. So why don't we jump back in? This is really slow. This software is really, really slow. So this is the vibration, left and right grip. Okay, that's pretty cool that you can choose how much vibration you want on each grip. So if for whatever reason you want less on the left side, but more on the right, you can do that. Not too sure why anyone would want that, but look, at least the option is there, right? Okay, this is for the macros. Can do long press tap. Okay. All right, so this is just to set macros up. Specific button presses, whatever it may be. Could be really cool in fighting games if you do want to kind of create something on one button, like a specific combo. I won't be surprised if online there's a way to have that banned. But again, it's really cool to kind of have this option. Again, like I don't really use it. But to each their own. I know a lot of people like having a macro list available or that software available for the controllers. So this is the connection mode. So as you can see, you can actually switch it into switch mode. So you can connect this to your Nintendo Switch, which I will test out. Step accuracy, it doesn't really explain what the numbers exactly mean. Like effect stick precision, which is cool, that's fine. This is the polling rate that is on the box. So it is set at 2000 Hertz, which I will check. Controller calibration. This is to calibrate the stick or the gyroscope. Left sticks maps to D-pad. Left sticks map to D-pad. I guess like if it is a game that uses this analog stick for movement, but let's say the D-pad is used for switching weapons, things like that. I'm assuming this basically will map this onto this, but does it swap it with the analog stick? Wouldn't you just be able to do that in the game either way in some way? Okay, whatever, doesn't matter. Part manual, you have that as well, and you can restore factory settings. I believe this is the firmware. Okay, so this is where you can download the firmware. There's no firmware available right now. One thing that I've noticed, and I did reach out to them to kind of confirm, and they did confirm, is that the lighting scheme, like the RGB that we've got going here, you can't change it. It's just how it is for this controller. So yeah, I was kind of hoping I could change it, but it's fine. Like I don't mind it. I'm obviously just more fascinated by the controller itself. I will say that the software is a little bit of a letdown because it is very laggy, very slow, and just the wording and things that are written here are just not, you know, fully kind of in view, which is not good. But yeah, all right, so that was the software. Why don't we actually jump in to see whether or not we actually do get 2000 Hertz of polling rate with this. So I did download a program from GitHub that is able to test this. I will post a link in the description of where I got this from in case anyone wants to see. So we will be doing the maximum amount of tests that I could choose, and I'll use the left stick. Now I'm just gonna move the left stick again and again, kind of like so. As you can see, you'll see on the screen. it is recording it. So it's done its test. Now should be able to go check what the actual polling rate is for this. All right, so as you see from this, I did actually test out my Ultimate 2C, which is rated at 1000 hertz polling. The BigBig Won Blitz 2 with the dongle is at 2000 hertz. So you can kind of see that with the curve, but I'm looking at this area here, polling hertz over here, and it is at 2000. So we are getting 2000 hertz polling rate with this. So in terms of latency, you want to make sure that you're getting every little press in, getting that competitive edge. This controller does give you that. Will I get a competitive edge? Probably not. And I mean, if you're a casual gamer, you got to look at it that way too. But it is cool that we have confirmation that it is coming to 2000 hertz. Okay, now why don't we quickly go back and talk about my experience playing this or trying this on the Nintendo Switch 2. So when it comes to using the Blitz 2 on the Nintendo Switch, you have to have the Nintendo Switch or Nintendo Switch 2 on, and then you gotta turn the controller on, of course. I did try this with the dongle and also wireless, and I found that the wireless was kind of what worked on my end. Once the controller is on, you will then hold the power button and the A button together, and you'll see the color change to orange. This basically means that it is now in the Nintendo Switch mode. Then at the top of the control, there is an area where you can kind of hold the button to basically start the pairing mode. And on the Nintendo Switch 2, when you are in that pairing mode screen, once you have kind of held this down, it honestly just detects it on its own. I didn't have to press anything. It just detected it and it just came on screen as a pro controller. And that's all there is to it. Then you can start playing your Nintendo Switch 2 games using this controller. I jumped into Mario Kart World, started playing there. It was fun. It worked as expected. Of course, the button layout is the Xbox layout. So we have the A at the bottom and B on the right. And of course, on the Nintendo Switch, it is actually the opposite. And the same goes for the X and Y buttons. So it's you kind of have to go by memory when you're playing the Nintendo Switch games and you're using this controller, which for many people is okay. This can be a secondary or tertiary control that you might have at home for when people come over. I even tested out the gyroscope aiming in Metroid Prime 4, and yep, it worked as expected there as well. I guess two disappointing things about using this on Nintendo Switch is one, I couldn't feel any of the vibrations at all. I went back to the software, bumped it all the way up, and still I just couldn't feel anything. Maybe there's a setting I need to click on, or there might be some other configuration stuff I might need to do. But from what I found online and just kind of my own testing out, I just couldn't make it work. And the next thing is something that does plague a lot of controllers out there that are trying to play with the Nintendo Switch system to a degree, is that you can't wake the controllers using third-party controllers still. So that's always not really fun. So you have to kind of turn the Nintendo Switch on using another controller, and then of course turn this controller on. I did notice that when you do turn this controller on in Switch mode, there are times when the Nintendo Switch doesn't recognize it even though you pair this controller. It worked a couple of times, and other times I did have to kind of do that repairing mode again. So like I said, I can see this being as a secondary, tertiary, whatever the 4 version of that is, a control that you just kind of have on the side that you play on the PC with, and you kind of realize, hey, I'm out of 3, 4, I need 5 controllers for whatever reason, and this can be a 5th controller that you can kind of plug in and start playing with your friends. Now the buttons at the bottom, this bottom of the controller, I did use this on the PC. There were times that it kind of like activated something. The screen would just kind of snapshot for a second, but I just couldn't figure out a way to assign them to something. And what? It seems thou entered a peasant's home. Yes, the smell. That odorous smell. Oh! Who might you be? Hank, seriously, this is what it's come to now? What are you wearing? Does thou require aid? It looks like thou's hair is on the outside of the picture, if you know what I mean. Okay, get all the hair jokes out now. So you're gonna be like this entire video. Thou do not know what thou is talking about. Shall we partake in fisticuffs of minds? BigBig Won Blitz 2. How many pennies does such a contraption cost gentlemen gamers like thyself? When it comes to the price, this is priced at 80 USD or around 90 Canadian dollars. I have seen it on the Canada Amazon store being at around 72 CAD. So you do see it go on discounts here and there. And that for what this offers, what it is supposed to do with it being 2000 Hertz polling rate with the mechanical buttons and all that stuff, I can see that price being justified. Now, when I compare this to the 8BitDo Ultimate 2, for example, that's around 60 USD or around 79 Canadian dollars. And I do kind of go back and forth. 8BitDo does have an amazing software setup. The controllers obviously are amazing. It is made by 8BitDo after all. You're able to customize the RGB lights and all that stuff. And you also get a really cool charging dock. And those analog sticks are also TMR. With the Blitz 2 TMR, you get the 2000 Hertz polling rate. You get these amazing mechanical buttons. You get the really cool rubberized grips around the controller and also on the analog sticks, which I really appreciate. The D-pad is amazing. It has a bunch of extra buttons that you can use for various Windows things. And you are able to customize the D-pad and the analog sticks with what you get out of the box. So there's a lot going for both controllers. Even when we're looking at the triggers for this are pretty useful, especially from a competitive angle. It is of course rated or meant for that competitive player. The whole selling point of this is TMR sticks, 2000 Hertz polling rate, so it's supposed to be really, really low latency, and having button presses that have immediate actuation so you get the response you want. 8BitDo 2 does have that clicking mode that you've seen, and it has a full extension mode so you can play games like racing games. Both controllers have prices that justify the price for what they give you. From a competitive angle, the BigBig Won does have a control that kind of speaks to me in terms of its price. So you need to weigh all of those things. I mean, at the end of the day, if you really want a budget option for a great control, you can always go to the Ultimate 2C, but of course, you won't be getting some of the features like the mechanical buttons or the button clicks that we have on the triggers. And of course, you can also use this for the Nintendo Switch, so it can become a secondary controller for that platform. Me, myself, and I noticed that thou strugglest without Switch connection it. What thou is up with that? Yeah, look, the Nintendo Switch experience for this controller was okay. It doesn't wake up in my Nintendo Switch 2. There's no vibrations. The buttons, of course, will confuse anyone over time unless you kind of memorize it. If you have multi-platforms, you do kind of memorize it to a degree. But still, you know, I would like an option to remove the buttons and kind of place it here or there. But I view this as a, like I mentioned multiple times, a secondary or tertiary controller for the Nintendo Switch. It's not meant to be a primary controller. Or I have the controller for my PC and I just have the Joy-Cons for my Nintendo Switch 2, then I can just kind of bring this in for any game where I'm like, you know what, I don't want to use the Joy-Cons today. It is priced at being cheaper than a Pro 2 controller. So for many, this might speak to you more if, like I said, you have a PC and you also want to play on the Switch, or if you also want to play on the mobile phone and your Switch and your PC. 2000 Hertz polling it rate. What the hell does this do? So the 2000 Hertz polling rate, like we did the test, we saw it, it does come out to be 2000 Hertz based on that specific software. But in terms of real life examples of me actually playing the games, it was hard for me to notice. Everything felt really smooth, all the button presses felt amazing. That is kind of what got me more in, is the mechanical buttons. It made it feel like things were happening a little bit quicker, and I was getting that feedback because of the buttons and it being mechanical. But I can't just tell you that, yes, no, everything felt quicker, because it's just so hard to tell the difference. Does it mean someone who's in the pro space won't notice? But they probably would. But for casual people like myself, I just want to make sure that a controller feels good. So when I'm playing competitive games, it's doing what I expect it to. And when I'm playing single player games, it gets me immersed in that game. This contraption does not allow DAOs to play games of automobile racing? What doubt with that? Yeah, look, it's a bummer when it comes to racing games. If you're playing like a simulation arcade game, like kind of like F125 or even Forza, having it set to that clicky buttons is okay, because at the end of the day, you'll be playing it where you're playing in automatic mode, so the gears are changing on their own, and same thing for gears changing down when you're braking. So it won't make that much of a difference. But if you're trying to play something like iRacing, which does require you to be a little bit more precise with everything when it comes to braking, and of course the acceleration, same thing with Assetto Corsa, Gran Turismo, if it ever comes to the PC, those games, yeah, like it's gonna be a little bit tough, and you can kind of apply this to any game where you need to use the triggers in a very, very precise way. As you've seen with my sim racing video, if I want to play a sim racing game, I want to use my sim racing rig. So it doesn't necessarily apply to me. There are times when, I want to play F1 and I just want to jump in using a controller. And for that, this is perfectly fine. Yes, very good. Thank you. This will not end well for me. So the BigBig Won Blitz 2 TMR, 2000 Hz polling rate. It's a great controller. As you saw from my expressions, I was kind of sold on the get-go when I just started pressing buttons. As we're recording this video, I keep pressing these buttons because they feel really, really good. At the end of the day, that is kind of what brings me to a controller, is the feel. If it feels good in my hand, if it does what I want it to, it will take up that space on my desk as the controller I will use every day. Now look, as we mentioned earlier in this video, this was provided to me at free of cost. And I want to reiterate that this review is my own review. I'm not being forced to say anything that I don't want to, but I can confidently say that this will be replacing my 8BitDo Ultimate 2C on my computer, which has been my main controller for over a year. That is saying a lot. Now, it's not because of the 2000 Hz polling rate or any of the customizability, anything like that. It is simply because of how it feels. It feels good in my hands as I'm holding it right now. It feels amazing to click and to press. When I'm playing a game like Destiny 2, I can just imagine this feeling so good that I will just keep on playing and forget and let this controller melt in my hands whilst getting that feedback. When I'm playing Street Fighter 6 or Mortal Kombat 1, I can get that feedback from the D-pad of me doing certain moves just by the sound, knowing that, hey, I got that combo right, I got it wrong. And that feedback, that button clicking sound is just so addictive that you just want to keep playing using this controller. I will of course continue to test this, continue to use this and see if it stays on my desk for the next few months to a year. But at the moment, this is my new controller of choice for gaming on my PC. So thank you everyone for joining. It really means a lot. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave a like, subscribe, comment, things like that. It really helps the video. I do have affiliate links for this controller in the description below, and I also pin in the comments. So you don't have to click on those links if you don't want to, but if you want to support this channel, that's a great way to support this channel. Also check out my previous videos if you want to see some other cool reviews. Thank you once again. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.